What's going on, everyone? Welcome back into another live edition of the Patriots Beat podcast here on the CLNS Media Network, presented by our wonderful friends over at Prize Picks. It's Brian Hines back as always with Alex Barth, fresh off the Patriots' second preseason game up there in Minnesota. And it was another win, came down to the wire. Hold on to your butts. Preseason game, last play of the game. But Patriots hold on, 20-12 victory. And Barth, after 2 days, a lot of good work at joint practices out there in Minnesota. We still got to see Drake Maye. We got to see the starters for 2 series, kind of a similar script from that first preseason opener. It wasn't a turnover, but, punt on the first series, bounces back with a nice 8-9 play touchdown drive there from Drake Maye that TreVeyon Henderson caps off. So we saw some Drake Maye. We saw a change up front on the offensive line that we will certainly get to in some of those receivers. No Stefon Diggs in that group. He was out today, but some work from Drake Maye and kind of a similar result from that first preseason game there as well.
Yeah, I thought the more concerning thing, like he definitely had a couple sprays, and those need to come down. The one big one, obviously, being the one to Pop Douglas. He had one to Mac Hollins that Mac Hollins caught. It's a great catch. The other throw to Mac Hollins, some people are noting as being off target. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world to throw that ball high to a 6'4" wide receiver. I'm kind of okay with it. The bigger thing to me is the delay of game, which he took responsibility for. Like those operational things is like, that's the stuff you got to cut out. That's an avoidable penalty, right? So the sprays bother me less. They don't not bother me. They bother me less. I'd rather be without the delay game penalty, especially after the clean operation last week. I thought he bounced back nicely on the next drive. Still a very limited sample size. Overall, it sounds like it was a good week. I mean, you were at the practices. So you probably have your finger on the pulse more than me. But it feels like he overall had a good week. But you just a couple throws you'd like to have back. I'm sure you'd like to have back. And then obviously that delay game penalty.
I do wonder, and the delay game is a good note because that was something before they went out there. It popped up in one of their practices, and Mike Vrabel kind of, let him hear it for the taking a delay game. I think
and he owned it after the game.
Yeah, he definitely did. I think it was in practice. It was one of those 2-minute situations, and they got a delay a game. So he did own that. I do wonder if that pop spray, like, I don't know how you saw it. Do you think it was just a high miss, or do you think Pop was maybe settling in that zone and Drake maybe thought he was still running and it was more of a miscommunication error? It was close, though. It was kind of off the fingertips. So I wonder if that was more miscommunication than a spray. But he did have the earlier one to Mac Hollins, which was caught, but it was high. He took a shot. So you did see a little bit of that. But I do think he settled down on the second drive, that third down completion you mentioned to Mac Hollins, and that goes back to what he's been saying since the spring in summer, where I want to remain kind of a passer, right? And he sits in the pocket. 2 chips on that play on both tackles. Third down, you'll probably see a good amount of that this year, but he scanned the field well, and then he took off there and remained a passer and found Mac Hollins. But yeah, I know that spray to Pop went in a turnover-worthy play category, technically, I think, but that was another big thing, just taking care of the football for the most part. That was one of the big parts of joint practices, right? He seemed confident, cool under pressure when handling all this Brian Flores stuff, and he didn't turn the football over. So I thought he continued well from joint practices outside maybe a spray or 2 there early on. But we'll stay with the offensive starters, and then we'll get kind of depth guys and those depth quarterbacks. But up front on the offensive line, we did see a change, and it was Ben Brown. We saw this in Thursday's joint practice. Ben Brown at left guard, but Jared Wilson was healthy enough to play with the second unit. So it kind of seems like this was a demotion based on performance. And Barth, I just haven't got your thoughts on this move because we haven't talked since the joint practice. So what do you just think of Ben Brown being the one to fill in there at left guard, and then Mike Vrabel kind of saying before the game to the McCourties, they relayed it on the broadcast, and then after the game saying, we don't really have a clear timeline. We don't have a timeline at all for when we want to settle this 5, and we're still kind of working through our best 5, trying to find that up front on the offensive line.
It's concerning. It's definitely concerning, and it, in some ways it reminds me of 21, where they were trying for a while to find their best 5, and Michael Onwenu had just had a promising rookie season, and they juggled it a few times, and they finally put Ted Karras in and benched Onwenu, and it worked. And I'm not saying that that's going to be the case here, that you have to bench Wilson to get your best 5, but just kind of the scrambling of it. It feels like they feel like Ben Brown is in their best 5. The other interesting thing with that was we saw, unless there were more in practice this week that I missed, I believe this was the first center snaps for Jared Wilson since like the third day of camp, right?
It
So
was, yeah.
the fact that they have him now back at center is this, I think, partially a demotion, but also maybe they don't want to experiment with him at center with Drake Maye. They'd rather do it with Josh Dobbs, but they want to see if Ben Brown can play first team left guard, because if he can do that and then Jared Wilson can play center. Now Bradbury's the odd man out, which maybe they feel is the best way to go because he struggled. I think that they're still scrambling, and now we're kind of getting back into that territory we were last year, not from a talent standpoint, but you want these guys to have some reps together and work together to build continuity so they go into the first game kind of familiar with each other, and the clock's now ticking on that. Second preseason game is usually where you want to have that set. Now they're making changes, as many changes they've made coming out of the second preseason game. I'm not out on Jared Wilson yet. I still wonder if there's a scenario where he ultimately replaces Bradbury and it's Ben Brown at left guard. But it does feel like they feel like their best five includes Ben Brown, and they're just trying to find a way to make that work with whoever.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering about with Jared Wilson at center, because he was on that second. He started this game with the second unit left guard, and I was sitting there thinking to myself, okay, if he's not starting at left guard,
Yeah.
why not let him snap and play kind of his natural position? I think the position we feel he's best at long term at center with that second unit, and then it took only one or two drives, and he was back at center. So I haven't been the biggest Garrett Bradbury fan. I don't think, watching live, I know we got, bull rush, which has been the biggest problem, back onto Drake Maye's lap one time. Looked like he had a couple whiffs in the run game too, as a run blocker. So I didn't think it was Garrett Bradbury's best game. So I do wonder if, okay, now Jared Wilson's back at center. Is that sort of this path we're going to go down where he's now eventually going to back to where we started, right? Like back to eventually replacing Garrett Bradbury. Right. But now we haven't had a summer of Jared Wilson snapping to Drake Maye, and the week 3 practices they had together, there were a couple footballs on the ground there. So definitely not out on Jared Wilson. We saw a lot of high end talent. He's still really young, a lot of high end potential. But I do wonder if the path back to him being in the lineup is at center, with then maybe Ben Brown at left guard, which I don't know. I like Ben Brown last year. Like he stepped in and played all right in that tough situation, but I would feel better, if someone like Caden Wallace or even City So or one of these younger guys could kind of step in and grab that starting left guard spot.
Yeah, it's going to be a sprint to the finish here because there's only one preseason game left, no joint practices. And honestly, it might be something that continues into the regular season, which isn't great, but it might be something that continues into the regular season.
Yep. Any thoughts on Will Campbell from the 2 drives we kind of saw? It wasn't, Barth, I'll tell you, it wasn't pretty that final day of joint practices. Jonathan Grenard did give him some serious issues on Thursday. Now, he didn't go against Jonathan Grenard today, but it did seem like he kind of settled down good in the run game, it looked like, which we know. But any thoughts on Will Campbell, or even on the other side? Marcus Bryant drew the start at right tackle with Morgan Moses out. So any thoughts on those tackles?
On Campbell, I thought he looked good. Obviously, against the backups, did not have a good day on Thursday, but still a bounce back in some sense. I thought there was one play where he almost got beat, but he was able to steady himself and buy Drake Maye time to. I think that was the completion of Mac Hollins, and where Drake Maye kind of reset the pocket before throwing. Obviously, in the run game, he's a bulldozer. We know that. The backup tackles, Vidarian Lowe has passed Demontre Jacobs. They're trying Vidarian Lowe again at right tackle, which I don't love. I still wonder if there's another tackle coming on waivers. And let me be clear, just in case, because apparently I need to clarify this for Felger and other people. Claiming a tackle on waivers is not a good sign. Obviously, it's better to get players that are better than the ones you have, but ideally you're good to go from the jump. But yeah, I'm still worried about the backup tackle situation. I didn't think Marcus Bryant had a particularly good game today. At least when he was on the right side. He was a little bit better on the left. But still worried about the backup tackles. Now you have movement on the interior of the offensive line. Morgan Moses didn't play again. Like it's in a concerning spot. That group they didn't have a lot of room. Like they looked okay at the beginning of the camp, but it was like, all right, this looks fine as is, as long as nothing changes, which is not reality in the NFL, and things have changed, and now suddenly it's shaky again.
Yeah. Yep. So it's still the biggest question mark for me on this football team. Just how are they going to hold up? Because with the joint practices and even a couple plays today, like you see when Drake Maye is protected, he knows what he's doing, and he gets the ball where it needs to go for the most part. He's looked really good, but you just got to keep him protected. And that's been a challenge because, even Morgan Moses didn't have a great Thursday joint practice, and then didn't play today. That was expected kind of with the veteran, but Marcus Bryant, are you going to be able to trust a 7th-round rookie right out of the gate? We talked so much in recent years about Vidarian Lowe at right tackle, and I think he was tabbed for like 3 pressures playing right tackle today, and then it was a little better at left tackle, which is what we've seen a lot. So both of the depth spots behind Will Campbell and Morgan Moses kind of remain question marks for now. But in a positive note, TreVeyon Henderson just keeps doing it. Another touchdown, bubble wrap for sure. Just the touchdown, like looked dead in the water, and then just explodes out of there. Stays patient, explodes out of there, finds the end zone. He's electric. We've talked so much about that, but I'm with you. Just bubble wrap TreVeyon Henderson. We'll see you week 1, dude.
I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't play next week with Stars. And the thing about this game, like we saw him run fast last week. Today he showed he can run with some power too, and he can run angry, like real well-rounded back.
Definitely. So it was him, no Mondre. He's been out expected, but real positive stuff from Henderson. Even the 3rd and 10, they run that little draw, which I'm sure the Josh McDaniels haters got worked up. But it seemed like that was maybe a 4-down situation. So, but you just get all of it, right?
Drake check into that too?
I think he did. Yeah, it looked like he checked into it. So, but when you have a back like Henderson and that speed, he just picks up 11 on that play. So there you go. But good to see TreVeyon Henderson still doing that. Receiver room, we were talking about the starters. Are we talking about Efton Chism like he's a starter at this point, or what?
I mean, he's on the team. I don't know if he's a starter, especially not to start the year. Like, I still think he's a developmental player ultimately, but there's something there to work with. So he's going to be on the team. I think you have your 6 at this point. The one wild card is Kendrick Bourne. When he comes back, what do they do with him? Maybe he starts on IR. Javon Baker is still too far away at wide receiver, and I think there's other guys making special teams plays at this point. Maybe they can get him on the practice squad. Like, maybe there's something there, but I think Efton Chism is going to be the 6th guy, and then that's the group. I mean, the after the catch stuff is what sealed it. You don't really get to see a lot of that in practice because you can't tackle. So anything after the catch is kind of with a grain of salt. This was live reps, and they couldn't get him on the ground. Like, the thing I've said a lot is usually the indicative thing for UDFA making the rosters when they start to run with the first team, which Efton Chism obviously isn't done. But at a certain point, okay, if he's not going to do it, we have to go off what we have. He looks like, in a good comparison here, we know, and we'll get to Anthony Jennings more in depth, but like we know Anthony Jennings is a starting caliber player, right? Anthony Jennings is playing with the 2s and 3s, and he looks like a first team guy playing against 2s and 3s. It looks lopsided. When Efton Chism is out there against these 3rd-string guys, it looks lopsided. So that's usually indicative of a rosterable player. It's not like he's like just barely winning against them. It's unfair.
Yeah. And it's not like, this is like the 2020 Patriots wide receiver room where, he's not getting snaps over these guys who don't threaten defenses. And I'm not saying, the 2025 Patriots room is like a top 10 room in the NFL, but, it is like Stefon Diggs and Pop Douglas and guys who are a little bit more proven. So it's tougher to get on the field. But this is exactly what we see on the practice fields when we sit here and talk about Efton Chism all the time. Like the ability to get open against man, find spaces and zone. And I said it, like anytime it feels like Josh Dobbs needs a play, he just hits the Efton Chism button and there he is. And he was doing that today, that one drive, 3 third-down conversions. Then, as you say, now in this live game action, we get to see the play strength, which Mike Vrabel complimented again. And even Elliot Wolf on WBZ at halftime mentioned how, tough it was to bring him down, which the Vikings were finding out. So you get to see that in the live action. So he has been absolutely awesome. He's definitely, I had him on my 53 kind of this whole time, but he's locked on. He's locked on there now. I don't know. Doesn't sound like you had real estate on Evan and I's island. I heard you were giving a little. So
it's a quarterback thing.
No, it's not. Like you ever have a take and like you say like you're on an island with this take or something?
No, I say I'm on the bandwagon or the bus or whatever. The fan the train. Get all aboard, right? Chism Island to me implies a corner.
I don't know. Sounds like someone who doesn't have a penthouse suite on Chisholm Island. That's what that
Because he's
sounds
not a
like. But
cornerback. I still, the whole point is you can't get off the island. That's why you call it an island. It's like Revis Island. I just think you need a better term for that because that already denotes something else.
it's not like it's different than a corner because it's like
So, okay. So I think Jordan Polk sneaky. It's spoiler alert for the defense part of the podcast. But I think Jordan Polk sneaky has had a good couple weeks. Maybe he makes a push towards the back end of the roster if Kyle Duggar gets cut, or at the very least he's on the practice squad, right? But if I talk
Polk
about
Island.
Polk Island, but he's a corner. So you're going to think I'm talking about him like locking up receivers, which is not what I'm talking about. So I'd say I'm on the Jordan Polk bandwagon. Get your tickets
corners,
where you can.
But I think it's different for receivers because they can't lock anyone up. It's more of like
I don't think it. I think if it's enough, if the player's obscure enough that you need to stake your claim like that, people might not know what position he plays. Obviously, everybody knows now, and the island's very crowded. I think you need a new term for that.
All right.
It's nothing against Efton Chism. I just think you need a new term for it.
All right. I like Chisholm Island. We have some great real estate on Chisholm Island, so we're going to keep rolling with it, but Barth can push back all he wants. So, but those are those depth receivers. There were still 5 in front of them. Kyle Williams did leave early, took a big shot to the head. Rochi said on postgame he told him he was all good, but, sometimes with those headshots and concussions, that can pop up couple days or tomorrow when he wakes up. So we'll continue to monitor Efton Chism highlights, but big day for Mac Hollins, 3 catches, 38 yards I think he finished with. So and you see the big body, big X. So and Drake Maye was looking at him a lot in the joint practices too. So I know he's an interesting character, right? And he gets some of the people riled up, but Mac Hollins is going to have a role in this offense, it looks like.
I think it's just impressive the chemistry those two have, considering Hollins didn't practice in the spring, missed, week and a half to start the summer. To be working together as well as they are, I think it's a testament to both of them and how hard they're working.
Yep. Tar Heels, a couple Tar Heels. They have that natural chemistry, I guess. So anyone else, not kind of quiet for the rest of the receivers, Booty, Pop, So no one else there top of the receiver depth chart to really talk about. But do you have any takes on Stefon Diggs? When we're going to see him?
Hopefully week 1.
Polarizing figure the last couple of days.
I think the stuff this week with what Todd Downing said and what Vrabel said and what he said to Rossini, I think that's just dog days of camp stuff. I'm not super worried about any of that. Like, it was always a little bit of a stretch for him to play week 1 that soon off the torn ACL. I'm not saying I'd be the most surprised, like if suddenly he's not, especially like he has been limited in these games. That does stand out because it does seem like Vrabel wants the starters to play, but I don't know. I still think week 1's in the cards. I think he was just kind of being goofy with Diana Rossini. I'm not worried about him and a lack of touches because I think he's going to be in the Edelman role. I think he's going to be in the volume role. He's a little, he's got a little bit of an ego. Show me a wide receiver one that's like an elite wide receiver one that isn't. And maybe he's not that guy anymore, but like that's just, like I said with the DK Metcalf stuff, like Larry Fitzgerald is not walking through the door. They don't make receivers mentally like Larry Fitzgerald anymore. It's what you get for the talent. And trust me, if he comes out the season as 100 catches, nobody's going to care that he was a little aloof in an interview in the summer, at least of all Mike Vrabel. So I'm not super worried about any of it.
Yeah. And Vrabel said it, but the fact that he's done this much with coming back from the ACL tear and Wolf even said on the broadcast, like he's been even more involved than we kind of expected at points this offseason. So the fact that he's done this much, I still think he's on track for week 1, even though we haven't seen him in a preseason game. I think he's on track for week 1 and probably just was being a little goofy there with Diana Rossini. But I doubt he plays in the 3rd preseason game. But maybe they do want him just to get a drive of real action, but I would still probably be pretty surprised if he suits up for that 3rd preseason game.
Same.
All right. Should we do depth offense or defensive starters? I forget our
let's do depth offense. I have 2 takes on the depth offense.
All right.
That we haven't already talked about.
Rattle them off. Let's hear number 1.
All right. I'm going to give you the shocking one first.
Oh, all right.
Is Jermichael Hasty going to make the team?
I was impressed with JaMychal Hasty for a guy, and I know he was here last year, but for a guy who just kind of showed up last week, plays special teams, had a good block on Marcus Jones's punt return, ran the
Yeah.
ball efficiently. I think he was like just under 5 yards a clip, has a little pass catching ability if needed. With a running back room that's thin all of a sudden, like I could see him being that fourth guy in that room.
He's the ideal guy for that role. Plays special teams well, multi-versatile as a back. Like he's not an unbelievable running back, but he can do a lot of different things where he's not going to be a liability. I think JaMychal Hasty's going to make the team.
Now I'm guessing like he was a free agent this whole offseason. Like you could
You could probably get him to the practice squad. So here's the thing. I finished. I'm still working on it, but like I kind of, all right, here's the guys I want to add from my last roster projection. I did this like after the game. So I did this like an hour ago. Here's the guys I want to add off my last roster projection. Here's the guys I'm cutting off my last roster projection. And usually it just about evens out. I'm at 52 players, and that's without Hasty. So I look at it, keeping a fifth safety might help, but I don't really know who that guy is. And that's something that maybe, maybe Del Pettis is coming up from the practice squad early in the season, or Jordan Polk is coming up from the practice squad early in the season. I'm already at 10 offensive linemen. I'm not going to keep more than that. I'd like to keep another linebacker. Again, there really isn't anybody.
Are you at 6 or 7 receivers?
I'm at 6. So Baker's one of the guys I took off because I think they can get him to the practice squad. Maybe he comes back later. I just was kind of looking around, and I'm looking at all the guys I have on like the bubble, and objectively of all those guys, I attempted to put Isaiah Ayton on. He got banged up today, so we'll see. And is probably a guy they get to the practice squad. I think more so than Hasty, probably. I think they can get them both, but if I had to pick one, I'm looking at all the guys on the bottom, and it's like JaMychal Hasty probably had the best day of all of these players, and he has the experience here. He can play special teams. I think he might make the team.
Yeah.
We'll see if Kendrick Bourne comes back. Maybe he puts himself back in the picture, but that was the only other thought I had.
Definitely some injuries that could shift that. But again, for a guy who just showed up last week and you had to fly right to Minnesota and then play in this game, like it was pretty impressive. So definitely at least building on staying around here in some fashion, one way or another. I can definitely see that with JaMychal Hasty. But what's your second other take there on the
this one? I think more people probably share. I'm officially worried about the backup quarterback spot.
Yeah.
Josh Dobbs was not good. And look, Josh Dobbs is not here to light up defenses. Josh Dobbs is here because he's a veteran presence. He's going to be important in the room. He's going to help Drake Maye. I get that. And I don't need the backup quarterback to be the greatest passer in the world, because if he was that good, he'd be starting somewhere. So I get it. Once you start getting guys hurt, though, like you got to be able to protect your receivers. And that's where you kind of hit a tipping point. I don't know what else they're going to do. They're not going to give it to Ben Woolridge because they still want that veteran presence. Like I'm thinking during the game, these are rookies. This doesn't apply either. Like I see if the Vikings cut Max Brosmer, I'd be all over that. But
he's got a arm, man. He
was on my short list for them. I thought they might take him late on day 3. But like you can't be getting guys hurt. And he threw the one that got Kyle Williams hurt, and there was one or two others that were like borderline.
He missed Baker a couple times.
Yeah,
let him out of bounds on one honey hole shot.
Well, I mean, borderline, like could have gotten somebody hurt again.
Oh yeah, that too.
So that hopefully we don't have to see him, but it's almost just like for this next week and a half between practice and the last game. Are you comfortable with him throwing to Pop Douglas? So, yeah, that I don't know that there's an answer to this, at least not this year. Maybe next year you go get a new backup. I think it's a 3-year deal, right? For Dobbs?
I think it was
2 or 3 year deal. It's a multi-year deal. I know that. So maybe, I don't know, maybe next year you figure something out. But that was his, like the one thing you can't do as a backup is get guys hurt.
Yeah.
And he got Kyle Williams hurt today.
Vrabel kind of specifically mentioned how his ball placement needed to be better. I think that was before Thursday's practice, because he threw 2 really bad interceptions on Wednesday. So the ball placement, I know the final box score doesn't look bad, but like there were some issues with the ball placement, and he got Kyle Williams crushed. So
let me be clear, that throw itself, like the decision is fine, because yeah, he's going to get hit no matter what, but that's just, you got to be able to take that hit in the NFL. That throw has to be at the numbers or lower so he can get down and protect himself. Like at times, you guys are going to go over the middle, they're going to get hit. But when you make him go up over his head and expose his whole body to the defender, that's where you get in trouble.
Yeah.
That's where it gets dangerous.
Yeah. So I pulled it up. It was a 2-year deal. They can cut him after this year, and they actually saved 3.7, and it's a 1 million dead cap hit. So they could get out of Josh Dobbs easily if they need to. Hopefully he doesn't have to play much in the regular season, right? Because if Drake Maye's out, they're probably screwed regardless. But yeah, it hasn't been a great performance from Josh Dobbs, consistency wise, accuracy wise, to date during the summer. Although I will give him credit, he did bounce back Thursday's practice. He was very good. That was probably one of his best days of the summer, and a lot of that red zone work. But the consistency hasn't always been there, so it wasn't great from Dobbs today. But that will wrap up the offense. Let's jump over to the defense very quickly. But before we do that, our friends over at Prize Picks want to let you guys know, if you know ball and you could spice up, I hope you spiced up that preseason action today on Prize Picks, the best place to cash in on your favorite sports. Just pick more or less on player stats like receptions, receiving yards, rushing touchdowns, receiving touchdowns, passing touchdowns, anything. Jump over to the defense, interceptions, sacks for your shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash today, and even take advantage of their weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday, where each Tuesday projections can be discounted from 15 to 25%. I'm going to have to get a new entry for my lineup next week in the preseason finale, because I've been rolling with Efton Chism, and I don't know if Efton Chism is even going to play in the Thursday preseason finale there.
He is. So it shouldn't be a lot.
Yeah, so we might not want to throw him in my lineup, but maybe you're looking at some of those other receivers like Javon Baker, John Giles, couple nice catches today, so you could throw those guys in, or Jump Sports, Red Sox, still hot, still tearing it up. Roman Anthony, since he's been in the leadoff hole, has been raking, so of course, I add more than half a hit into my lineup as well there. So make sure you guys download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup, all over on Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, jump over to the defense, Barth. I think the big thing watching that game, Kyle Duggar, a lot has been talked about him over the last week, running pretty extensively with that second defensive unit, but out there in the fourth quarter and out there on the last play of the game in the fourth quarter, and I know he makes the interception, but then like it can't even be all positive because he, is running around. He doesn't just go down, and he almost fumbles. Maybe if it was a regular season game, they could have called that a fumble even, but just the usage and the fit in the defense, it just continues to add more question marks on like what his future is going to be here in 10 or whatever days when it is cut down day.
And I mean, I thought he was on, but that last play, that's everything Mike Vrabel's talked about eliminating in his program. It's a low IQ football play. The game's over. Go down. Right? Like there's nothing to be gained from running out. And I understand if maybe he's pressing because he's trying to save his roster spot. Like I get that. But it's still, I don't know, Brian, you tell me, how do you think the coaching staff's going to, they called you down, so it's no big deal? Or probably is that something I think that's something the coaching staff's going to make a big deal out of. And for a player that's already on the bubble, it's a little concerning.
Yeah, I'm with you. So it wasn't a great showing how he ended right there, and just in terms of usage again. And now kind of the flip of that, and you mentioned him briefly earlier, Anthony Jennings, like playing into the fourth quarter again for the second straight preseason game, but taking advantage of his opportunities and just dominating, second and third string players. 3 sacks. I think he had another pressure on there as well. So that's also a guy, the fit in the scheme is questioned, but he's productive. He's been productive in past years, and now he's playing really hard and popping on these preseason games. So that's going to be another interesting question too in these upcoming weeks, is what his future is here on that defensive line.
Yeah, so he's the opposite of Duggar. He's making the most of every opportunity they're giving him. He didn't play. He still played like late enough that it makes you question, but didn't play as late as he played last week. Has the 3 sacks. he looks like a starting caliber NFL player. I just hope they can find a role for him. I don't know what that is. He also kind of seems like the guy that might take a lesser role, because if he can do that, like he's in a contract year, he still hasn't had that big deal. If he can just have a decent year in some role and then hit the market instead of getting cut, he'll still have a chance to get paid. I hope they can find a role for him because the talent's undeniable. The talent's still there. This isn't like Kyle Duggar where he doesn't look like the same player he used to. Still looks like the same guy. It's just the defense has changed and it's tough to see where you put him. Do you try him off the ball? Did a little bit of that at Alabama, and that was 5-6 years ago.
He did a little of his rookie year too, right? They had him off the ball at times.
Do you see if he can rush from the inside maybe and use him there? That's something he has a little less experience with, but I just try to find a role for him because I think he can play.
Yeah. The depth on the edge there will be interesting because, we've seen flashes like Truman Jones. I think had a couple flashes again today, and Elijah Ponder has good speed and burst, but those guys are the speed and bursty, bendy type of guys where, Anthony Jennings is that, edge setter, but, he was getting after the quarterback a little bit against the backups today. So that'll be interesting how that goes, but I hope they can find a role for him. And if not, at the minimum, as we both said, I think after last week when we talked about this, like losing him and having to cut him would be disappointing. Like, can you find a team that will, at least give you a day 3 draft pick for him and get some compensation out of that? Because he is a good football player, and that would be tough to lose him for nothing. But that edge position will be interesting to kind of shake out. And just back to the secondary quick, another kind of question I think a lot of us had leaving Minnesota was Marcus Jones had kind of a tough day on Thursday in the slot, covering TJ Hawkinson, which, size mismatch. He had some problems with Jordan Addison as well. Alex Austin today, 1 catch on 4 targets, had the interception on kind of this Sam Howell heave, was in the right place, right time, made the play, and had another like really good forced incompletion playing from the slot. So I do wonder if they want to get bigger, a little bit more physical, maybe in the slot there. If Alex Austin, who's had a good camp as a whole, can kind of start to push Marcus Jones for some playing time there with the starting defense.
I mean, I hope they don't judge Marcus Jones's inability to cover TJ Hawkinson as like a deciding factor on his roster spot. That's just not, he shouldn't be in that position.
Bad situation. Yeah.
Right. He still put up competitive reps for me. You got to keep him because he's looked like such a good returner. They just need another tight end stopper. Maybe that's Alex Austin. I think with Marcus Jones, more of a matchup thing than anything.
Yeah. So those were kind of the big things on defense. Anything else stand out to you with that unit? Starters, depth guys?
No, I think that's it for me.
You mentioned Isaiah Ayton earlier. He had a nice play. Chason had the pressure on the interception I just mentioned, so that was encouraging to see. Milton Williams
Chason deserves credit. I mean, he was having a great camp, got hurt. That derailed guys sometimes. He hasn't missed any. He's missed a beat. So good for him for staying ready. Even he missed like a week or a week plus.
Yeah.
And he's come back and just still been awesome. So he deserves credit for that.
Definitely encouraging. But we'll wrap up with special teams. Give credit to Jeremy Springer's return units again. Jeremiah Webb broke a big one. Marcus Jones had a 37-yard return. They did give up an 81-yard kick return, so a little bit of a mixed bag compared to last week when it was just breaking off good returns after good returns. But the kicking competition continues to be really interesting because Borregales, he missed from 57 yards, a really bad shank. Kind of looked like the operation got rushed. The snap was, laces to the kicker from Julian Ashby. Now, Bryce Behringer did a good job of flipping it around, but the whole thing just kind of felt discombobulated and a little bit of a mess. And then you saw just a complete shank. Now, he did bounce back with, sneaking in a 51-yarder there by the left upright. And then Parker Romo, he just has a 28-yard chip shot. He makes that, but then he gets penalized on the ensuing kickoff, right? It doesn't land in the landing zone, and then the ball comes out to the 40. So this kicker competition, it was really good. It feels like they've both kind of fallen back a little bit, but it's still really close and neck because they're riding these waves together so far.
Yeah, I do think it's telling the usage that at this point they're leaning more towards Borregales, who got the extra point today, who got most of the kicks in joint practices. That maybe tells you that they're starting to make a decision. I don't want to come down too much on a guy for missing a 57-yarder, especially when the operation was bad. Came back, missed, made the 51. Did he miss another one? Somebody's saying a bust who misses. Oh, I thought they said who misses 2 in a dome. 57 yards, 57 yard. Doesn't matter where you are.
But Parker Romo made a 57-yarder last week.
Well, so the other thing is, what do you make of Parker Romo leaving that kickoff short?
Yeah, that's because we've talked a lot how that could be a deciding factor, right? So if you're going to get penalized and short, I figure if you're going to miss, if these guys are going to have misses, it's going to be long.
Yeah.
Right. So short was kind of interesting to see him miss that way there.
And I know some people have said that they were trying to set something up and that's why it was like that. Unless Vrabel went to them and said, hey, I want the defense to have to start on the 40, which I don't think he would do that. Whatever they're trying to set up, Romo didn't execute it because the ball has to come down inside that line. So, there's that. The misplaced kickoff, I think, is more of an issue to me than the missed 57-yard field goal.
Yeah, that's probably fair. Just because it did look like a clunky operation as a whole, but the distance from Borregales has been interesting over the last week, especially because he was pretty good from 50 plus in Miami. He had the big what was the kick at the pro day he hit? It was like 60 something yards.
Something like that. Yeah,
that was losing his mind. But before they went to Minnesota, he missed from I think it was like 54 and then around 55 in like the 2-minute live session, and then he missed from 54 again in Minnesota. Now he missed from 57 here, so he hasn't been great with those 50 plus kicks. He's been better within 40 or 49 within, but the range has been kind of interesting from Borregales. And Parker Romo did have that long 57 one in the first preseason game, so just a trend there I've noticed of late. So we'll see if he can bounce back there. But I think that'll do. Oh, I have one more thing, Barth.
Yeah.
I meant to give this take last week, but I didn't. And I saw you tweet about it today, so I was glad we were in agreement. The virtual measurement stinks so bad.
It's horrible.
It stinks.
What exactly did it make better?
You're just sitting there like it feels like a timeout. Or it feels like one of those like Madden glitches where it's just like ranging the sideline and there's nothing's happening. You don't know what's happening. And maybe it was a broadcast thing today. Like they didn't even show it, like the measurements on the screen. And then you get to just the logistics of the actual measurement. Like the ref is still spotting the ball. And I just missed the chain gain. I like the chain gain. I like seeing those guys run out there. It brings a little bit more excitement to it because, where's the chain going to go? And you get to actually see it. So I'm out on the virtual measurement. I think it stinks and it doesn't save any time. So I don't get what the point of it is.
Yeah, we computers, look at us, technology. Like it's not more accurate. It's not quicker. I thought it was going to be instantaneous, like the one in soccer or the one in tennis, which like, if it was like that, I guess fine. But it's not any more accurate. It's just displayed differently because we still don't know whether or not the ball is spotted correctly. At the end of the day, wherever the ball is spotted, you can bring out the chains and measure it. I get fine. You're not going to have what's his name with the index card trying to figure out the difference, but and you lose the suspense of them bringing the chains out and seeing how they're lining it up. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything. It's clunky. It's slow. It doesn't give you any better of a result. Bring back the chain gang. I'm done. I'm done. I'm out. And even the chip in the ball thing is never going to work because the chip has to know when the player's knee is down. So I'm sorry. There's certain things that just have to be done by people. Like, bring back the chain gang.
If there was a way where they could instantly find like the chip when the knee went down or the player was down, and they could just, do it like tennis right away where that mark gets put on the line and then it just flashes on the screen and it's quick, it's efficient. Like, sure, but it's not any of that. Like the ref still has to spot the football and then they go to this, you're just watching the sidelines or whatever. And then it comes on the big board and it takes a while. So I missed the chain gain. I don't like the virtual measurement. Is this locked into this year or are they testing?
I hope not. I really hope not. And to this point that Pat Stats brings up, the virtual gives the betting companies the info ahead of the bettors to adjust the lines and close markets. I hope you mean that as a negative. Like I've seen some other people say, it's more, it's more of an open book. It's what's the term? It's more, whatever. It's more open. It's more, why can't I think of the term? Like when you disclose information, transparent. Oh, it's more transparent. It's absolutely not. 100% it's not transparent. If they bring the chains out with it, which by the way, chains would get out there quicker and we could just be done with the whole freaking exercise, it would be transparent. I don't want it helping the books. That's the last thing I want, is the NFL catering more to gambling into fantasy football. I get they have to an extent because there's money coming in, but stop tailoring the game to people who are not actually fans of the sport. So, and that's not to say everybody who plays fantasy football isn't actually a football fan. It's another rant for another time. But it sucks. It's going to piss me off all year. And there's going to be a game where the Patriots not lose on it being wrong, but like there's going to be a game where there's a virtual measurement late and it's a huge call. It's not going to go the Patriots' way. I'm warning, I am going to be a pain in the ass that week. That is really going to piss me off. I don't like it.
There's going to be a huge moment this season, whether it's a Patriots game or like a playoff
no, you know what it's
going to
be? The bailout Buffalo Bills are going to get some bullshit call again off of that. And I'm just going to be aggravated. I hate it so much. And the more I see it, the more I hate it.
Yeah. I just, because the timing, like it takes just as long. So like, why not let the guys run out there and you see the suspense and everything? Like, it's just not efficient enough to make this switch. So that's where I'm at with the virtual measurement. Out on the virtual measurement.
Hate it.
All right. So we'll end there with a good rant, but Patriots 2012 win in week 2 of the preseason short week turnaround Thursday night preseason finale against the New York Giants on the road. A couple practices this week, Monday and Tuesday. I think they're scheduled for. We still have access to them. I'm hoping they're not just like regular season kind of walkthroughs, but
I think they will be.
Might be trending that way with maybe prep for a short game week here. So but whatever happens, we'll be back to break that down. So make sure you're locked on to Patriots Press Pass, like, subscribe, turn on those notifications so you know exactly when we are going to go live or whenever any content is posted. Taylor just posted their exclusive with Efton Chism from Minnesota. Great interview. So make sure you go check that out as well. And for anyone just listening on audio, make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else there as well. You can follow Barth on Twitter at RealAlexBarth. Head over to 985thesportshub.com for his preseason coverage there. And you can follow me on Twitter at @IamBrianHines and head over to patspulpit.com. Plenty of preseason Patriots coverage there as well. So thanks everyone jumping on with us tonight. Have a great rest of your weekend and we will see you guys back next week.